Everyone was laughing at my graduation dinner, glasses clinking, my mother's practiced smile locked in place, my father pretending he was proud. I was still smoothing the crease in my gown when Grandma Evelyn leaned in, her voice warm and soft, completely unaware of the grenade she was about to drop. I am glad the 1,500 I send you every month is helping. The room did not go quiet. It collapsed. I froze, looked at her, then around the table, and felt something cold rise in my chest. I never got any money, I said. Chairs shifted. Forks paused. Every head turned toward my parents. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Grandma set her plate down, and the air went tight. You could feel the atmosphere change, like the moment right before glass hits the floor. I wish that had been the first time something felt wrong. It was not. For years I had been ignoring small, ordinary red flags. A missing 20 from my birthday card. A tuition bill that did not match the scholarship amount I knew I had been awarded. The way my mom's voice could crack on command, like emotion was a switch she could flip whenever she needed sympathy. My name is Jennifer, and for as long as I can remember, I have been the kind of person who apologizes before I speak. Growing up, I learned quickly that needing anything was a problem. New shoes, too expensive. A school trip, we cannot afford that. Even when I started working weekends at a small cafe in high school and came home smelling like burnt espresso, my paycheck disappeared into what my dad always called family expenses. I did not question it. I thought I was helping. By the time I got to college, I had mastered the art of surviving on almost nothing. Granola bars for dinner, 2 part-time jobs on top of a full-course load, long nights in the campus library because the heat in my apartment barely worked and I could not afford repairs. Through all of it, my parents reminded me how proud they were that I understood sacrifice. I wore that word like a badge, even when it felt more like a chain. My mother, Diane, played her role like she was born for it. Soft voice, trembling hands, eyes shining at all the right times. We are trying so hard, she would whisper. I feel so guilty that we cannot give you more. My father, Victor, backed her up with cold logic. Money is tight. Be grateful we are keeping you in school at all. And I believed them. Why would I not? The only person who ever made me feel safe was my grandmother, Evelyn. She lived in another city, so visits were rare. When she did come, she would hug me like she was trying to anchor me to something solid. Whenever she floated the idea of me visiting, Diane would step in with that thin smile and say, Jennifer is overwhelmed with school. We do not want her falling behind. Evelyn never pushed. I never questioned it. Now I know I should have. Every blocked opportunity one hit had their fingerprints on it. That night at dinner, sitting between the people who had shaped my life the most, and the one person who had consistently loved me without performance, I finally understood this was not the beginning of a mystery. It was the end of my denial. We did not leave the table right away. For a few suspended seconds, we all sat there in the fallout of Evelyn's sentence and my reply. The dining room, warm and cozy a moment before, suddenly felt sharp around the edges. I could hear my heartbeat louder than the clinking cutlery. Grandma's hand froze halfway to her glass. She did not look confused. She looked like someone who had just had a suspicion confirmed. Her fingers tightened. Then she set her plate down with a soft, deliberate click that sounded louder than it should have. Across the table, my cousin Harper's eyes moved from my face to my parents'. Her smile was gone. Samuel, another cousin, leaned back slowly, watching Victor like he already knew exactly what this was. My parents still did not speak. Diane's smile stayed stretched and unnatural, like melted wax refusing to fall. Victor's jaw clenched once, that small, controlled movement he always did when he was calculating. Jennifer, my mother finally whispered, her voice high and fragile. Sweetheart, I think you misunderstood. Evelyn cut in before I could answer. No, she said quietly. She did not misunderstand anything. My father cleared his throat, trying to drag the authority back to himself. This is not the time for confusion, he said, glancing around at the guests. We will discuss it later. No, Evelyn said again, sharper this time. We will discuss it now. She turned to me. When was the last time you checked your account, dear? Heat crawled up the back of my neck. I do not have any transfers, I said. Not a single one. The sound that came from Evelyn was not surprise. It was a soft, painful exhale. The sound of someone realizing the thing they were afraid of had been happening all along. Diane pushed her chair back abruptly, napkin crushed in her hand. Mother, please. This is embarrassing. For who? Samuel asked quietly. My mother's expression cracked into the face I had seen my entire life. The trembling lips, the glassy eyes, the pathetic tilt of her head. Her favorite mask. Only this time, nobody rushed to comfort her. Guests started to excuse themselves, one by one. The room emptied slowly. The second the front door closed behind the last person, Victor turned to me. We will handle this privately, he said, his voice lined with warning. Privately, I repeated. You mean the way you handled the money? My mother flinched. My father's eyes narrowed. That was when my phone buzzed. A text from Harper. Call me tonight. I know more than you think. My stomach dropped. Later, in my old bedroom, the ceiling felt lower than I remembered. I lay there replaying every missing dollar, every unexplained bill, every guilt speech about how hard they were trying. When I finally called Harper, her voice came through steady. They did it to me too, she said. And to others. You are not imagining this. Silence stretched between us. Then it broke. That was the exact moment I understood this was not a mistake. It was a pattern. A system. And I had been placed right in the center of it since I was a teenager. I barely slept. By morning, my pillow was still damp and my throat felt raw from holding everything back. The house was quiet when I slipped out. Sunlight barely pushed through the blinds, like even the day did not want to touch what sat inside those walls. Grandma Evelyn opened the door to her hotel room before I could knock twice. One look at my face and she reached for me with both hands. Tell me everything, she said. So. I did. I told her about missing paychecks from high school that had gone toward bills. I told her about scholarships that mysteriously did not cover what they were supposed to cover. About how I worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, and still believed my parents were barely surviving. I told her how they called me understanding every time I went without. Evelyn listened, jaw tight, eyes bright with something that was not shock at all. It was recognition. I kept records, she said finally, standing with a kind of quiet purpose that made her seem much younger. She pulled a slim folder from her bag and handed it to me. Transfers, dates, amounts. Every payment I sent you. Inside were neatly organized statements. For years of monthly transfers. Notes in the margins in her handwriting. For Jennifer, finals week. For rent, do not let her stress. For her, not them. My hands shook as I turned the pages. But I never saw any of this, I whispered. You know where it went, she said softly. I did. I checked my own accounts next. No transfers. None. When I called the bank, hoping for some reasonable explanation, the representative hesitated. There is a joint account under your name, she said. Opened when you were 17. Your mother is listed as primary. My stomach flipped. I had never signed anything like that. Not at 17. Not ever. By afternoon, I was sitting across from Harper in a quiet cafe. She slid into the booth with a look that said she had been waiting for this conversation for years. They did the same thing with my trust, she said. Told everyone I was irresponsible. Told me I must have spent it wrong. Then I checked. The transfers went straight to accounts tied to your dad. Her words pulled at something in my memory. Suddenly old conversations with my parents snapped into focus. Dad insisting Samuel was jealous. Mom saying certain relatives were bad influences. They had not just taken money. They had cut off anyone who might have warned me. They isolated us, I said. That is what people like them do, Harper replied. That night, I told my boyfriend, Ryan, the whole story. He rubbed his forehead and said, I do not know, Jen. Money stuff gets messy. Maybe they did what they had to. He was not trying to hurt me. But that answer told me exactly how alone I would be if I stayed in denial. By morning, I was sitting in front of an attorney named Alden, with Evelyn beside me, her hands folded, her anger controlled. This is not just bad budgeting, Alden said after reviewing the documents. This is financial abuse. And fraud. Something inside me settled. Not anger. Not sadness. Determination. We can move forward, he said. But it starts with intent. I am ready, I answered. And I meant it. The cafe we chose for the confrontation had warm lighting and the smell of good coffee. Under any other circumstance, it would have felt comforting. That day it felt like a stage. I sat at the table with Evelyn beside me, Samuel across from us, and an empty chair waiting. Harper watched from a booth nearby, out of sight but close enough. They will come, Samuel said. People like them always think they can control the ending. He was right. Victor and Diane walked in dressed like they were attending a business meeting they expected to win. My mother looked around with wide, watery eyes, already slipping into victim mode. My father walked with that same controlled stride he always used when he believed he owned the room. They stopped short when they saw who was sitting at the table. Mother, Diane breathed. Jennifer, sweetheart, why are we doing this here? Because here, Evelyn said quietly, you will not be able to twist the truth. Victor's jaw pulsed. Let us sit. The second my mother set her purse down, I unlocked my phone and placed it face up on the table. I am recording this, I said. Diane's voice cracked on cue. How could you do that to us? It is for clarity, I replied. No more confusion. Victor leaned forward. You are being dramatic. We can talk about the money. There were reasons. Good, I said. Let us talk. I slid Evelyn's folder across the table. He opened it, skimmed the pages, and stilled. For years of transfers, I said. You told everyone I was struggling because school was expensive. Yet the bank shows I never received any of it. My mother's face shifted into her favorite performance. Trembling lips. Wet eyes. That broken sigh. We were going to give it to you when you graduated, she whispered. It was meant to be a surprise. We only wanted to protect you. You were so young. You forged her signature, Evelyn said, her voice steady as steel. On an account she never opened. You stole from your own child. Diane's tears disappeared for a moment. Forged? That is ridiculous. I confirmed it with the bank, I said. I was not even 18 when that account was created. There were expenses, Victor cut in. Family expenses. You do not understand how hard it is to carry financial responsibility. I almost laughed. I worked double shifts to keep the heat on. Before he could answer, Harper stepped forward from the back of the cafe. She came to the table and stood behind me. They took from me too, she said. My trust fund. They told me I must have mismanaged it. The transfers went straight to accounts connected to Victor. Victor's shoulders stiffened. Lies. Families share money. That is how it works. That is not sharing, Samuel snapped. You did the same thing to our parents. I just never had proof before. The cafe had gone quieter. Conversations dimmed. People pretended not to look, but everyone could hear the tension. This is a private matter, Victor hissed. No, I said. Private would not involve forged signatures and hidden accounts. Diane reached for my hand, her voice shaking. We were under so much pressure. You do not understand how hard it has been. We had no choice. You always had a choice, I said. You just never picked me. Evelyn stood and the entire energy of the table shifted. I spent years trying to believe you were doing your best, she said to Diane. I told myself you were overwhelmed, not cruel. I told myself you loved Jennifer the way she deserved. She paused. I was wrong. Diane's breath hitched. You manipulated her. You cut her off from people who would have helped. You starved her life to feed your own comfort. And I am finished excusing you. Victor scoffed. This whole act is ridiculous. He stopped when Alden approached the table and set a sealed envelope down. Notice of intent, Alden said. Financial fraud. Forgery. Conversion of funds. We will be moving forward. Diane shook her head. No. Jennifer, please. Do not let them do this. We are family. You made me feel like a burden for existing, I said calmly. You weaponized money and called it love. You did not protect me. You hid what you were doing. Victor slammed his hand on the table. You have no idea what you are starting. Actually, Alden said, she does. It did not end with shouting. It ended with stillness. The kind that settles in when someone realizes the control they thought they had is gone. 2 weeks later, the courthouse hallway felt cold. Evelyn held my hand. Samuel and Harper waited nearby. When our case was called, Victor and Diane came in looking smaller, older. Their confidence cracked for the first time in my life. The judge listened to everything. Evelyn's records. The bank's confirmation. Harper's statement. Samuel's testimony. The forged signature that was supposed to be mine. The judge asked if I wanted to speak. I did not think I would be able to. Somehow, I stood. I told her about the nights I had gone to bed hungry. How I had believed we were barely surviving while my parents were quietly draining money meant for me. How they praised my understanding while pocketing every breath of relief my grandmother tried to send. I told her this was not just about the amount. It was about trust shattered on purpose. When I finished, the judge nodded slowly. Discovery will proceed, she said. A forensic accounting is ordered. Victor dropped his gaze. Diane cried behind her hands. Their story was no longer the only version in the room. The settlement came months later. Quiet. No drama. Just numbers on paper confirming what we already knew. They had to repay every cent, plus damages. Investigations began at Victor's workplace. For the first time, his confidence did not look like power. It looked like fear. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the city. The first night there, I stood at the window and waited for the guilt to hit. It did not. Evelyn visited often. We planted herbs on the windowsill. We made tea and talked about starting a scholarship fund, something that would keep another student from slipping through the same cracks I had fallen into. Harper and Samuel became a steady part of my life. We did not pretend everything was healed. We just told the truth and moved forward. That graduation dinner had not broken my family. It had exposed what was already broken. In the space that opened after the truth came out, I built something new. Not perfect. Not pain-free. But real. A life where help is not a weapon. Love is not conditional. And my worth is not measured by how much I can sacrifice. If you have ever had to protect yourself from the people who were supposed to protect you, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to build something better. Tell me where you are watching from. Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more true family stories. You are not alone.